Do we like start with like an intro or
Welcome to Sports Ramble.
oh, that was good, Joe. I like the radio. Joe with the radio voice?
Yeah, can you break that down again for us? Wait, let me play you in.
Copyright. We're gonna have to mute this.
Let me play you in, bro.
It's not monetized. Relax.
Is it an original? Dennis
What's a
Potter
good
original?
What's a good play-in song?
It's like an outro song. So we're gonna have to make a. I'm gonna make a beat on Guitar Specialist or whatever it's called on here to play you in from now.
Garage Band.
Yeah, on GarageBand Guitar Specialist. Wow, really missed the box on that one.
Missed the box.
But all right, I guess Joe, take us off with your special voice.
Welcome to Sports Ramble.
All right, I'm Corbin Rush. I talk. Joe Dennis.
Are you supposed to do like more than that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm Big D,
Oh no.
SEC specialist.
Lord. Let us know what you are, Joe.
I'm Joe, Sunbelt Specialist, baby. Go Dukes.
Absolutely perfect.
That was horrible.
So I guess we're just gonna start talking about SEC rivalry weekend, man. Or I guess just rivalry weekend in general.
Just start talking about the Michigan-Ohio State
Yeah,
game.
I was gonna say let's just jump right into the Michigan Ohio.
You want to
State
jump into that one, or you want to save that one for last? That's the
That is the
juicy.
biggest one. We should probably save it for last then.
Yeah, let's save that for last. All right, I think we go Clemson, South Carolina first because it does have playoff implications.
It does.
All right.
It's not ridiculous to say.
Okay. All right, Dennis, you got what's your take? Well, who do you think is going to win that game?
I got final score prediction or just winner.
Give me your winner and then final score prediction. You can go ahead and give them both.
All right, I got. I'm gonna go ahead and say.
Pull up my notes here.
I'm gonna go 31-28 South Carolina.
31-28 South Carolina. I like that. Joe, what you got? And remember, it is well, I have no idea. Is it at Clemson?
I'm checking right now.
That's what I'm looking at too. Should have probably looked at that before, but it's fine.
I had everything pulled up a little while ago.
I don't know why it's not showing me. I'm assuming it's at Clemson. Yeah, it's in Clemson at Memorial.
I mean, I think Clemson's gonna figure it out.
You think so? You think
I mean,
DJ is able to pull it through?
I mean, I just think after South Carolina coming off a big win that they're not going to be able to hold the momentum into playing Clemson. I mean, Clemson just lost to Notre Dame, last 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Clemson's overrated. I think they're overrated every year. But, I mean, I think Clemson might be able to pull this one out, though.
I like that. I mean, I'm biased. I hate South Carolina. Being a Tennessee fan, I would love to see South Carolina lose by 45 this game. But I think I'm on board with Dennis. I think South Carolina has a real chance. Like, I think South Carolina kind of figured out what they need to do with Spencer Rattler. Just let the boy play ball because we made him look like the Heisman candidate he was supposed to be after he played like scared little boy since he got to the SEC ball. But he got out there against some Tennessee boys and they just decided, hey, man, throw that thing up.
Yeah.
And Spencer Rattler did
Turn this thing into a boat race.
He really did. Also, I don't think Clemson's defense is that elite this year either.
It's not.
No.
And I'm always going to root for the team that scrambles up the playoff mix.
That's true. Yeah, because this game does have playoff implications. Because Clemson wins this game, goes on to win the ACC championship. TCU loses. Ohio State or Michigan's going to have Big Ten's going to have a one-loss team try to get in.
To be fair, though,
but
I think a one-loss Big Ten team gets in over Clemson.
So you think either Michigan or Ohio State can get in?
I think both get in over a conference champion, Clemson.
I think both get in over TCU.
If TCU wins out?
Even if TCU wins out. Who do they play?
I mean, to be fair, TCU has 5 ranked wins as of right now against teams that are currently in the college football playoff top 25, if I'm not mistaken.
It's also the Big 12 though.
Yeah,
that's true. It depends on how much the committee values like Big 12 wins. But I think personally that Clemson wins out, TCU wins out, and hold on, what is going on here? That's going to be a weird cut. But but no, I personally think that ACC wins out or Clemson wins out, ACC championship, they win. The committee overvalued them at the beginning of the season. Am I wrong?
Of course they do. They do every year.
And so Clemson's overvalued right now. And then there's no way they keep out an ACC champion over a one-loss Big Ten team that did not play in their championship game. So I think Clemson has to win this weekend and next weekend to even have a chance to sniff the playoff. But I think if they do win out, they would even make it over a one-loss USC Pac-12 champion.
But what do you think about their if depending on how the game goes, and if they barely beat South Carolina, is it going to be much of a conversation?
I think it depends on how the USC Notre Dame game goes, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I think the biggest issue we're running into right now is that we have overvalued Clemson and we have undervalued USC. And I figure we'll talk about the USC Notre Dame game next. But I'm just thinking that the way Clemson has played all year, they haven't looked dominant in any one game. The offense has been stagnant all year. DJ just can't get it together. I don't see how you put a Clemson team who hasn't been impressive all year over a one-loss Pac-12 team, but the committee overvalues Clemson every year, and now they're going to get basically a free walk into the playoff if they win out. That's how I feel about it. Dennis, what do you think, Joe?
I think that's a hot take.
I think you're not far off the marble there.
I think there's too many moving pieces right now, especially with rivalry games coming up tomorrow. And then on the flip side of that, you got conference championships coming up.
Yeah.
And there's some ramblings. There's some ramblings out there about how good of a matchup LSU is for Georgia.
We'll get to that. We'll hit on that. We'll hit on that at the end real quick. A little prediction. Little future prediction.
There's a lot of moving pieces.
Our SEC specialist already trying to talk about it. But all right, well, I think that leaves I think we all got to pick. I got South Carolina. I think if South Carolina figures out, plays the same way they did against Tennessee, let Spencer Rattler throw the ball, I think South Carolina wins, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think it'd be 45 to 21. DJ can't play off Clemson's offense besides Will Shipley has just been atrocious. So that's what my prediction is.
Oh, I was gonna say 35. I think Clemson's gonna win 35-21, to be honest with you.
I think that's a hot take.
It's a very hot take, but we'll see.
I like it. Joe coming in first pod. Joe coming in strong
with the hot takes.
I know
the hot takes.
We're not the sidebar, but look at the beard and the haircut on this guy.
I'm all bald now.
Absolutely came prepared. All right, so Dennis, your pick was 31-28.
31-28, South Carolina.
I think you and me got a little SEC bias. Joe may be coming through this a little clearer eyes, but I think that's
I was an ACC guy.
That is true. So I think we jump right into the Notre Dame USC game because I think that has the biggest implications this weekend.
I think this is the biggest. Yeah, this is one of the biggest games that's not talked about.
So I can go. I'll just go ahead and say that I think USC is not going to match up well against Notre Dame at all, and I think Notre Dame wins this game. I think Notre Dame absolutely dominates time of possession because Notre Dame's running game has been elite, and I love Caleb Williams, and I do think he should win the Heisman. I think he's the best player in college football this year, and I think Lincoln Riley's an amazing coach, but he doesn't have his guys. They're very thin. Notre Dame's a hard physical team to play against, and I just don't see a scenario right now where USC comes out on top of this game because their offense isn't going to be able to get hot, and Notre Dame's going to control the ball and run it right down their throats, and USC just does not have the run defense to stop it.
They are playing this game at USC, just so you know.
I think Notre Dame football, the style of football they play, travels well. That's what I think.
I agree. I do have Notre Dame in this game too.
You do?
Yeah. That's all I got to say about that.
So, I want to hear Dennis's take.
I got Notre Dame 27-17.
I like it.
And I think, like Corbin said, they dominate time of possession without a doubt. Like, I'm talking like 4-1.
You think so?
Yeah. And I think you see like the strong Pac-12 teams, you can't forget they're still in the Pac-12.
That's true.
I agree. I mean, Notre Dame's been frisky this year, though. So, I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
That's
They
what
could
I'm
either be
saying.
hot or cold.
Notre Dame is hot and cold, but USC, are they really that? Are they them yet? I don't think they're them yet.
I think they're a year away. I think Lincoln Riley gets his recruits from South California in, and that team's going to be scary.
I think next year you see a similar situation. I think objectively, right? It's a similar situation to what you got going on in Baton Rouge with the new coach, new quarterback in that system, like for that school, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think they're a year away from really being a contender, even though on paper right now they're still a contender.
That's true. I don't think that's crazy to say. I do think, and I was just thinking about this though, I think right now it's kind of, again, Notre Dame and LSU are very easy to parallel right now because new coach, first year head coach, awful losses to start the season. Like, let's be real, like the loss to FSU just did not look good. The loss to Tennessee, 40-13 at home. I mean, go Vols. But like after that,
like Notre Dame losing to Marshall and
Notre Dame. Yeah. There you go, Sunbelt guy.
Yeah. Sunbelt, baby.
But yeah, no.
Who else did they lose to?
They also lost to Marshall. They lost to Stanford, which is
obviously they started the season losing to Ohio State, which that was a given.
They played Ohio State really tough though, and that was an Ohio State team that did not lose a lot of pieces last year. They still returned JSN. They returned Marvin Harrison, who, in my opinion, just sidebar, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a top 5 receiver in the NFL within his first 2 years in the league.
Marvin Harrison Jr. could be a top 5 receiver today if he played in the NFL.
I agree.
But he's a sophomore. Kid is 19 years old.
I concur. But anyways, back on topic. But I'm just saying, like, again, you can't take. They lost to Notre Dame, or Notre Dame lost to Marshall, and they lost to Stanford. But again, LSU lost to UT and LSU lost to FSU. It's not the same teams at the start of the season.
No, of course not.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, the matchup, like, you have to look at how teams playing now. You can't look at the whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
And USC is playing great football. I don't think they're not. But they don't play the style of football that's going to be able to beat Notre Dame at this point in the season. They're not
going to be able to beat a Notre Dame. And if they beat a Notre Dame, they're not going to beat a Georgia or an LSU or a Michigan or an Ohio State in January or in like December. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they didn't play anyone serious this year. I mean, they played UCLA ranked, but again, Pac-12. I mean, what are you going to do? And then
you lost to Utah, who's the most physical team in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And UCLA played them really tough. They had a last-minute win against UCLA, another very physical Pac-12 team.
I would say UCLA matches up really well with USC. Like, they're very comparable teams, so, like their style of play.
Caleb Williams was
West
a different
Coast style out there.
What's that?
In my opinion. I said Caleb Williams was the difference in that game, in my opinion.
He was. That's what I'm saying, though. Like, the systems are similar. You got
two great coaches,
athletes all around the field, but they're not like the big physical, play hard defense, run the ball down your throat teams, right? It's the Pac-12. I think playing Oregon or a rematch in Utah in the Pac-12 championship will really show what USC is. And I think it'll show what we know them to be, or at least I know them to be. And it's not playoff football contenders at this point.
I don't think any of us are calling them frauds because I think USC is a legit team.
They're not a fraud, but the way they play football is not conducive to late season success.
Facts. And we see that with Lincoln Riley's teams every year when he was at Oklahoma as well.
Literally, this USC team, the way that offense looks, exactly like Oklahoma looked with Baker and Kyler.
Yep. And that's a Baker-led football team that did go late into overtime with a Georgia team that was exceptionally good and should have won the national championship that year. So the ball stands up, but they just don't play enough defense to win those games, to get those stops in those crucial moments.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel about it. Joe, hit us with the big Sun Belt game of this week before we jump to the game.
All right. Well, this is the most important game of the week, in my opinion. JMU playing Coastal at JMU. Coastal Carolina coming off basically a free bye week from the unfortunate circumstances that happened with UVA last week. But I mean, I don't know. Coastal has been, the number one team in the Sun Belt. There's, everyone's talking about them being ranked. Last year, this year, I think they're 9-1, right? Or 10-1, 9-1. But JMU, they've got a lot of fight in them. I don't know. They're coming off a big comeback win against Georgia State. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping JMU wins. I'm not sure I have enough faith in it. Maybe it might be a close game. Maybe a 1-touchdown game, 1-score game. We'll see what happens.
I think JMU's been extremely impressive. It's their first year in FBS.
And they were ranked at one point.
And they were ranked. I mean, they had some really good wins. They beat App State, who beat Texas A&M. Obviously, Texas A&M isn't the team we thought they were, but that's still a good win.
Still a big win. Another comeback win, down 20 points, over 20 points.
So I don't know too much about JMU football, to be completely honest, but I do know you were telling me that their starting quarterback had gone out for a few games, which attributed some of their losses.
Yep.
So can you talk on that for a second? Is he back? Is everybody's back right now?
Yeah, Todd Centennial, he's back and healthy. He's playing really well. He played really good in that comeback win against Georgia State. Like I said, he didn't play against Marshall, and then I'm trying to remember who we played that he played against Louisville right after playing Marshall, or after JMU played Marshall, and he did not look healthy against Louisville. He hardly threw the ball. We pounded the ball all on the ground. And that's what led us to that 34-10 loss against Louisville. But I mean, we beat ODU, which was not saying much, but they had some upsets. Georgia State, he looked amazing against in the second half. And then we'll see what he does against Coastal now he's fully healthy.
Yeah. I think it could be a good game. I think it's going to be a good one. Underrated game for sure, just because, Sun Belt Conference. But
yeah, well, no one really cares about it. I don't even know if it's on ESPN.
Is that going to be the big rivalry moving forward in the Sun Belt? Coastal.
Everyone's saying it's going to be App State and JMU, but we'll see. App State, that was an amazing, good rivalry game. Everyone's calling App State and JMU the rivalry of the Sun Belt, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, gotta get a few more years in there. But
who knows?
I'm excited for it because JMU's not that we all got roots at JMU, so we've all had our times there. Not safe for camera, but. Dennis, you got anything to say about the JMU Coastal game?
Got nothing to say about them except go Dukes.
Go Dukes, baby. Roll Dukes.
Roll Dukes. So I think this one definitely going to take up most of the time because we're going to talk a little SEC at the end because, we got a little SEC bias in this group. But got to. I think we need to talk about the game. Dennis, I really want you to take it away on this one because you're a Michigan fan. You've pulled for Michigan for years. I think you've watched more of these teams play. So I think kind of let us know your thoughts, what you think is going to happen here.
I'm guessing you're referring to the biggest game of the year every year.
The game. I think so. I think that's fair to say.
I'm going to say this. It comes down to one thing. One dude and one dude's name, right? Is this dude healthy or not? Can he do his thing? And that is Blake Corum.
I agree.
Blake Corum, the Heisman front runner before he went down last week.
Oh, that's a hot take.
No, he was. He was literally the front runner.
Was he in the lead?
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't know that. I thought it was. I thought it was
a hot take.
I thought it was Hendo. I thought Hendo was still in the lead at that point in time. Or CJ. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's Corum. It comes down to, can we possibly get a freak rainstorm in the middle of this game?
Yeah.
Because you got CJ Stroud, who, he's an athlete. He can throw that thing all over the place. Confidence and decision-making, a little questionable. But he's got the best, by far the best receiver in college football. Would be a top guy in the NFL if he played today at 19 years old, and Marvin Harrison Jr. And, there is no matchup for that.
Yeah.
No matter how well your defense plays, no matter like your dude could put on his fancy cleats that day. He's going to go up there, line across from Marvin Harrison. He's going to get juked out of those cleats on a route before the catch.
Not even talking about his yak ability.
I'm not even talking about the yak. I'm talking about just like at the snap, he's out of his cleats because Marvin Harrison Jr. is that good.
I think every week this season, and not to I want you to go back on this, but every week this season, I swear I turn on ESPN or something, and it's another Marvin Harrison Jr. catch. Like he's just been out of his mind all season.
He's that guy.
In his bag. He's in his bag.
He's that guy. But it comes down to Blake Poole. Little man, not real tall, not real big. He doesn't have the tree trunk legs. Something about him just it works, right? He's got those moxie. He's got those hog mollies up front for him. The best offensive line in college football. You can argue with me if you want.
I don't think that's crazy to say.
It's not ridiculous to say.
It's not ridiculous to say.
But you saw how they matched up last week against Illinois, who's a big boy team, right?
Yeah.
Illinois runs 7 down linemen 60% of the time, it seems like.
Yeah.
And Michigan barely won.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they can go out there and play their game, get ahead of the sticks. If my boy freaking McCarthy, JJ McCarthy, can get out there and not look like a middle schooler like he has the last few weeks, you know, they've got a shot. But I think all in all, Ohio State's the better team. Can Michigan win? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can Michigan win? Yes. Like not easily, but without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
Like they're ranked number 3 for a reason.
Yeah.
Will they win? I think Ohio State's the better team. It's going to come down to if they can move, like stay ahead of the sticks because Ohio State is explosive. Mm-hmm. But we also saw Ohio State at Maryland last weekend not look too hot. The score of that game was what, 42-30?
And it wasn't that. It was closer than that. That score was not indicative of that.
It was realistically, it was 36 or 43-30. And realistically, it was 36-30. And Maryland had the ball to go up, and they threw a pick.
Tallulah, he got sacked. He got strip sacked on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, but he ran it in for a touchdown.
Yeah, they caught it in the air. Yeah.
So realistically, Maryland was this close to beating to Ohio State, right?
Yeah, Illinois was this close.
Illinois was this close to beating Michigan.
I think the most disappointing thing about last weekend, and then Drew, I want you to also hit on this, but most disappointing thing about last weekend was that Michigan and Ohio State. I was hoping to see one of those teams come out and be like, we're going into this rivalry game and be like, okay, they're serious. Like that's the team that we wanted to see. And neither one of those teams came out. And I think both of those teams disappointed big time last week.
To be fair, at the same time, you got Ohio State and Michigan, the 2 and 3 teams in the country, playing Illinois, the fighting, what is it, Illini? Like, what is their mascot, right?
Corn, I don't know.
No, it's the Fighting Illini. Like,
that's actually their name. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even know that.
And you got, Ohio State playing the Terrapins. Are they really looking at the matchups for that week? Or are they already looking ahead to playing each other?
They're already thinking.
But we almost lost out on one of the greatest games of all time between these two teams because we almost lost out on 2 11-0 teams going at it because of that. And I think that speaks like not overlooking your opponent. But
you see these two going undefeated at each other. It seems like every other year.
Yeah. But who always wins?
Ohio State.
It's Ohio State. But Harbaugh has his chance now to change that narrative. He won last year.
I don't think the Khakis have it to go back to back. I just don't think they do.
JJ McCarthy has been extremely disappointing to me this year.
He has been. And JJ McCarthy has looked like a middle schooler.
I think he's been JJ McCarthy, in my opinion, was a mistake in starting for John Harbaugh. And I'll tell you why. The reason I think that he was a mistake is because Cade McNamara's floor is significantly higher than JJ McCarthy's floor. JJ McCarthy gets out there and he just makes boneheaded decisions, and his ceiling is a lot higher, But the problem is this season, we haven't seen JJ McCarthy's ceiling. I don't think one time. I don't think in one game
you got to look at it the way they play football. Michigan is a line up the big boys. We're gonna get a little play action. We're gonna throw a screen here and there. You know, a little outside little bubble. Give them a little smoke.
Yeah.
But honestly, they're a run first team.
Yeah.
They got the best line in football, and they're gonna use that line, and they're gonna run the football. You don't need a quarterback with a high ceiling and a low floor like JJ McCarthy. You need that like dude that's just gonna be like your average Joe every other week.
Yeah. Cade McNamara makes those plays. JJ McCarthy doesn't make those plays. And and that's what we watched. You and I both watched that game last week, and all they had to do was make what was it? It was a little out route, right? JJ McCarthy sailed it over the wide open tight end hand. I mean, he just sailed the ball. It's like, dude, that's a gimme shot. You got to make those plays, and he just did not make the plays. Joe, real quick, who you got in this game? What's your thoughts?
I just think, looking at the spread, Ohio State by 8. That's what the money is. I just don't think Michigan has the chance to do it. I just don't think they're going to have they just don't have it. I don't think they do. I think Ohio State's just going to do what Ohio State does, and they're just going to stay where they're at. Now I don't know what this means later on for the playoffs. I don't know if we're going to see Ohio State and Michigan in the top 4 depending on who loses or who wins. But I think that if Ohio State wins, obviously Michigan might have a chance. But I think if Michigan wins, Ohio State is still definitely in the conversation for the playoffs.
I think Ohio State has the more impressive wins this season.
Yeah.
100%.
I think they both have unimpressive wins.
Yeah.
Well, of course they do. But
I think, in my mind, and I'm going to steal it from Joel Klatt a little bit. I watch his podcast too. But like he always says that Michigan can set it and hit 5th gear consistently, but Ohio State has 6th, 7th, and even 8th gear.
Yeah.
And they can 4 points on. So it's going to come down to, can you keep their main thing is time possession. Blake Corum's got to be healthy. If Blake Corum's not healthy, I don't think this game is particularly close. But I think at the end of the day, Ohio State can go so high and they have so much potential.
Yeah.
If they reach that potential, Michigan can't keep up. And I think that's what it boils down to.
You want to move on to the next game?
Yeah. I think, I was going to talk a little bit about, we could hit Georgia Tech, but I was going to talk a little bit more about like just SEC football in general.
Go for it.
I think right now, I don't think everybody's writing Georgia in. And I'll be honest, as much as I don't know if LSU can do it, LSU is playing the second best football in the SEC right now. And I think if anybody has a chance to do it in the SEC championship game, I think LSU would be the team in the SEC West to upset Georgia in the SEC championship game. I don't know what that would mean for the playoff. I don't know if that would mean they would absolutely, if Georgia's already submitted themselves as they're getting in no matter what happens.
They are. But unless they lose to Georgia Tech and LSU, they're in.
Yeah. And I don't think this Georgia Tech game is going to be particularly close, but we've seen Georgia struggle with teams this year that they shouldn't have struggled with. Missouri, a 2-point win over Missouri, a 10-point win over a Kentucky team that Tennessee handled easily. South Carolina lost to Kentucky, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so South Carolina lost to Kentucky. So, Kentucky has potential, but they, rarely reach it. They were ranked top 10 in the country at one point this season, but dropped out fairly quickly. Yeah, somehow. But I think the SEC right now, I think Georgia and LSU has to win to make it. I don't think Georgia makes it. We can get in about how messed up the playoff is and why I can't wait for the playoff expansion, but that's going to be another video.
Yeah. That's another half. That's a whole thing in itself.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
That's a whole video on itself.
That's a whole thing, boys. That's not gonna be fun. I'll rip in.
Yeah. Well, I have a chance. I just want to talk about. Hold on, before we dive all the way into this TC or to this SEC stuff. I want to talk about how I think TCU just should not be even in the conversation right now.
That's a hot take. I'm ready for it. Hit us with it. That's a very hot take. That is okay. 360 degrees internal temp.
Joe. I'll say that right now before even hearing his logic. I agree with him.
Yeah, because who did they play? They literally didn't play with. They beat Baylor, an unranked Baylor team that no one even gives a crap about, by
Barely.
1 point. And they had to come back to beat them. They barely beat a disappointing Texas team this year. They don't have the wins to even be in conversation in this top 4 conversation. I just don't understand how they're even there. I would love someone to explain it to me.
It's because
they're Power 5 and they're undefeated.
It's because they have wins over overrated Texas team. They have wins over teams that have been overrated all year. And then
because no one can objectively look at it that they're playing the Big 12, and you play 9 games in the Big 12 each year. Everyone in the Big 12, all 10 teams play each other every year.
Yeah. It should be. It's a very similar situation to what the Pac-12 got.
Oh, it's the Big 12. Same thing goes for the Pac-12, except now you got a couple that are might kind of be contenders.
Yeah.
You got USC, Oregon. I'd say Utah. I really like Utah.
Let's not take that Oregon game against Georgia too seriously. That was Georgia.
No, that's what I'm calling them a contender.
So, yeah. I'm just saying, we talked about that earlier too, and I meant to hit on it.
You got 14 teams in the Pac-12, right? Or is it 12?
Not entirely sure. Man, we sound like we know what's going on, boy.
That's for a minute.
I tell you what, that's what the Bulls are.
You got, we'll call it 12 teams in the Pac-12. And you got 1/4 of them, 3 teams are legitimate, and they still each have at least 1 loss, if not 2.
Yeah. That's better than the ACC.
The ACC is a joke.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, no one's pretending like it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
The Big 12,
only except unless you're Clemson.
The Big 12, you play the entire league every year. Every team plays the whole league.
Yeah.
And nobody can look at that objectively and say, all right, these teams all suck. Their resumes mean nothing because they just play each other.
Yeah. Well, I'm also going to say, to be fair, the SEC schedules these FCS teams in November as well. And I think that's terrible for the sport. I think the SEC should pursue a harder out of conference schedule as well. I think the SEC gets, and again, I'm an SEC guy. I think the SEC is overrated every year because the top of the SEC is so heavy. Listen, no, I'm serious. Let's be real here. Let's see how the Florida State game is going real quick, because we're about to pop off here. But
24-24.
24-24, and Florida State's been cruising through. So I think that speaks to how bad the ACC actually is, but I also think it speaks to how overrated the SEC is because Florida is not a good football team.
No.
And Tennessee barely beat that Florida team.
And they also, SEC plays each other so much harder.
Yeah, it's hard to say the SEC is overrated when they are the rating. They're the metric. It's hard to say
that is overrated. The metric by which all teams are measured.
That's true. All I got to say is Tennessee is absolutely going to lose to Vanderbilt this weekend. I love Joe Milton, or I love Hendon Hooker, but
I got Vanderbilt money line. I already got the bet place.
I actually hate you. I'll be wearing my orange, buddy. I'll be singing Rock Top at the top of my lungs as we lose to Vanderbilt, and I watch it all burn in flames. But so I think that's a good. I think it's going to be a good game. Unfortunately, it should be a blowout. I think we see if Joe Milton's capable or not. I had to throw that in there because I got to talk about my balls.
So make sure you tune in to watch the game.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at noon. Noon your time, 11 your time, 10 my time.
Yeah, that's gonna be an absolute watch. I'm actually very curious to watch the Coastal Carolina JMU game, see how that plays out. I'm so serious though. I think the Sun Belt's a better conference than people are giving them credit for. I think these teams are underrated, and I think they're seriously competitive.
Definitely underrated. It's the upset division. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Everybody, crapped on Cincinnati last year for getting boat raced against Alabama. Sauce Gardner locked down those receivers. I mean, those corners. It was just the boys up front could not compete with Alabama's boys up front. I mean, it was just some big old bulls on the line.
Big old bulls.
But all right, gentlemen, I think that's gonna wrap up the first potty.
The first pod?
The first pod for the boys. Ferda. Sports Ramble has officially kicked off.
Thank you for watching Sports Ramble.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get that pre-recorded and play that on all of them.
In a sound booth.
In the sound booth. For sure. So, all right. See y'all next time.